So this is showing the implementation and the user experience for the web page side of the ECE 1413 project for Group 6. So right now, the project hasn't been started, or the website hasn't been started, so it's showing that the site cannot be reached. If we go over to here, type in mongod db path data, that will start at mongod, and now it is running. Our database is ready to go. We can come over here, type in npm start. That will begin our web page. And so now we can reload it, and the AWS server is running. So right now we're on the references page. That's just because I started off on the references page, but you can see here what we were using. So for our references, we have style sheets, we have scripts, we have Arduino libraries, and we have class activities. If we go over to index.html, this is the page that you'll typically end up on. This is the one it goes directly to. I was just on references to show that as a beginning point. So when people initially come in to the server, they will see this welcome screen. It'll tell them how to get their stuff started, describe what the project is exactly, and then give the exact link to the webpage they will need to put into their webhook to get this started. It also lays out who each of the user, team members are, a brief description of who they are, a picture, and their email address. So to show what it looks like for the sign up page, let's say you try to sign up with nothing. Oh no, everything's missing. So let's go through. So we'll call this person John Doe. It just has to be the general format. So if we remove this at right here, try to sign up, it is an invalid email address. So password, if we just go like 123 and confirm password 123, it'll tell us that it needs to be between 10 and 20 characters. The only thing, so this doesn't need to be a strong password. Just filling one of the requirements will not be enough to get in. So we'll put in a password. And as long as this password fulfills the requirements, we'll be good to go. But that can't be enough, because we need to have a device ID. So in this case, we'll call this device, we already have one device pulling data. So we'll put in this device right here, and we'll sign in. So you see the success message. It briefly showed the API key, but it's fine because we'll see that API key again in just a moment. So logging in, we can show john@gmail.com and his password. So once that's all in, log in, and you get taken straight to the account page. Now this is where most of the stuff ends up getting done. This is where just about anything you can do can be done. Here you see all the stuff. So you see their email has been logged. You see the API key has been generated. So this API key was what would be sent to the backend. So that you put this into your webhook to make it so your device can attach to the website. It also lists the device. Let's say we want to add a new device. Let's start off with that. So we'll have to put in a device key. So we'll call this John1 for the sake of brevity. And then to make this work, you also need to put in the email address. So john@gmail.com. Add new device. Oh, info has been updated. So now if we reload the page, you can see devices now includes John1. But of course, you can't actually get anything from John1. So we're going to go back to putting in John. You put in the email for each of these just to make sure that it knows which user to add and delete this from. So if we put John1 in again, we can now remove the device. Info has been updated, reload, and John1 is gone from devices. Unfortunately, weekly summary view and detailed daily view don't work so well right now. We have figured out how to make it so that it is able to read data. It is receiving data from the device, but unfortunately, we haven't figured out quite how to make it display the weekly summary view, and we haven't figured out charts. So for this project implementation, that won't be visible. We can go into more detail there when the implementation is shown. Updating the profile. So earlier, the name was John. Let's say he got a name change for whatever reason. Now his name is Reese Doe. Email still has to be john@gmail.com for consistency. And the password, we're going to change the password. So we're going to confirm that. And the device, we're assuming the device is going to stay the same. That isn't necessarily going to have to be updated because you can add or remove it separately. So then we're going to update profile. And info has been updated. So if we reload, it'll now show things have changed. So it might be better if we show login. So you can log out right there. That'll remove the key. So even if I go up here and try to go account.html, it won't let me do it. It'll just send me straight back to index. So we'll go back to logging in. Email, that'll be john@gmail.com. And password will be the new password I made. Let's see if I remember that. Looks like I do remember that. So this is how the user experience generally looks on the web page. It's fairly simple. You would just need to take this API key, put it into the webhook along with the device ID and uh, the link to the web page, which again is visible right here. This is exactly what you need to put in to the webhook to make it work, and that'll let you start sending data. So with that all shown, let's take a look at the implementation. So going through this in what I hope is a logical order, we'll start with our customer model. So this is what every customer is built off of. Of course, every customer needs to have a name, so this is that initial string. Email is a string. Password hash is a string. We'll show how that password is done in just a moment. The API key is a string. That'll be auto-generated, also to be shown in just a moment. It'll have an array of devices. This is what holds on to that array of device strings so that we can keep track of the IDs. And then we have the data. This is the interesting one. This is what holds on to the actual stuff that is sent in from the device. So the data array is an array of values. Values, this will hold on to the ID sent by, or the ID of the device that sent the data. It'll hold on to the oxygen value sent in, the SpO2, as a number. It'll hold on to the heart rate as a number, and it'll hold on to the date at which it was received. And then, of course, our customer also has last access, so we can keep track of when the last time the user logged in. So if we go to public, we just have our images. These aren't too surprising. It's just the images of people. Account.html shouldn't be too surprising. It's just a set of buttons. Basically, it just has the input fields and the buttons. All of our styling for each of these is done through site.css, which I'll also show in a little bit, Bootstrap, and Cloudflare. Cloudflare CDN.js does a lot of heavy lifting on this. It's the reason why things look as nice as they do. It made this tidy little box for everything to go into, so Cloudflare was definitely very helpful to have on hand. It also defined a lot of the navigation stuff. So, with the account, let's take a look at account.js. How does this work on the inside? So, a lot of this ends up being sort of repeated, specifically anything to do with data validation. So for the add device function, as an example, we have a regex to make sure that the email is correct. So it just makes sure, so this is what was going on earlier. So that point co was still fine because it was between 2 and 5 digits. That's fine because different email addresses have different styling. It just happens. It's perfectly normal. We define each of our elements in the document, and then set the border bottom, just to make sure that it's not still highlighted. Because what was previously happening was there would be a mistake, they'd fix it, resubmit, and then it would still be red, but it would be correct. So this is make sure it goes back to being the right color. There's a counter to keep track of how many mistakes there are, and then as this goes through, it'll highlight things to make sure that it's shown what is right and what is wrong, and make a little note. So for example, right here, missing device ID, just a note of what's going wrong. And then once all the counters are at 0, there's no mistakes in the document, it'll turn off the error display section, it'll turn everything back to the right border color, and then it will do the actual thing. In this case, sending the email and the new device to the backend for customers as a post in order to make sure that it does in fact add the device. So we can go over there right now. Customers.js. Add device is right here. So you can see it takes the request, it searches for the customer, find one by the email. This is why it's vitally important that the email has to be distinct in each of these. And it'll add that device to the set. So let's say I already had John 1 in the set, or in the array for devices, and I try to add another instance of John 1. It'll say that it succeeded because it did. John 1 is in the set, but it won't add a second John 1. There will only ever be one John 1. If something goes wrong, it'll inform the user. If not, it'll tell them either that the info does not exist or that the info has been updated. Just to hurry things along, most of this is fairly similar. So one of the more interesting areas while we're in the customer section is device data. Now this is what I was mentioning was sort of working, but also sort of not really. So device data, we are actually getting the information from the web server. So if we go over here and we go mongosh use authn show collections. So we have customers and students. Students have been cleared out, so this is a little bit old, so it would just be customers. So then if we go db.customers.find, we can see all the stuff under customers. So if you go, you can see here the name has been updated, so it is Resto, like we did earlier. And then if we go up a little bit, you can see there's an earlier one. This will be turned in with a GitHub server test. So you can see it is reading in the values right here for data. It is able to get it. This is from the old webhook that we have set up. So it is able to read the data. It has the ID, oxygen, heart rate, and the date it was received. The problem isn't in, we're going to close that session. The problem isn't getting the data. The problem is actually reading the data. So for one reason or another, this is what we have for weekly view. Ideally, this would go through the aggregate stage and then take the average heart rate, min heart rate, and max heart rate. Unfortunately, what is happening is it says that it basically just doesn't understand what the aggregate function is. If we had more time, probably could fix that, but as it is, it's not the highest priority just based on points. So sad to say, we're just kind of letting that go for now. For the sign up page, just to show how that's doing that hash before we end up calling it a day, you can see it goes through all this. So this is the same data validation, just on a larger scale. So it also makes sure, this is how we're making sure the password is good. So make sure that capital letter, lowercase letter, and digits, this is basically the same as it was in the authentication example, as mentioned in the XI book. So a lot of this came from there. So once this is good to go, make sure that everything is good. It'll send it to customer sign up. Customer sign up will find one. It'll make sure that the email isn't already there. So if it does find a customer with the email given, it'll automatically say, just no, we're not doing that. If there's an error, it'll tell you. If not, it'll encrypt the password and add everything to the backend and generate a new API key right here. And then make a new customer. So
in this video, I'm going to show you guys the things you're going to need in order to work on the project we worked on. In this case, we decided to design a device that measures heart rate, and the two devices you're going to need specifically is the argon particle device. And if you go up here, if you just search it up, that's the device we use. One of the devices we use, the particle argon device, and that's the tool we use to be like our small computer, which dealt with all the calculations and all the weird stuff. Then the second device you're going to need is the sensor, and that's the Max 30102. And specifically, we want this one right here. So that's the one we've been working with. And the third thing you're going to need is the website, the Particle website. That's the website which gives you access to the cloud, the Particle cloud. And as you can see right here, you can go and see the web IDE, and that's the one I have open right here. So for this, for the whole device to work, you're going to need first to set up your own device by going to devices. Then once you go to devices right here, you can see I already have mine set up. So if you don't have one, I think there's a place where you could set up your own. You could add your own device. But since I already have mine, I have there. And once you click in there, you could see right here, it's online. Make sure this is online before you try running anything. And then right here, this shows you all the events and all the data that gets collected from the device, specifically the particle device, once it gets the data from the sensor. Then in the web IDE, I have this code right here, and we had instructions specifically to do certain tasks. And in our case, for our project, all we were required to do is to measure the heart rate and the blood oxygen levels. And we did that using this code. I spent like days working on this. And we have our state machine right here, as you can see. And then right here, we're supposed to have it as we have a 30 minutes and a 5-minute timer. Specifically 30 minutes, that's the default. We're supposed to use this to ask the user for measurements every 30 minutes, but as you can see, I've kept it in 30 seconds just for the demo of the video. And then we have 5 minutes of flashing blue from the device until the user decides to take measurements. And then down here, if we scroll, all these are all the different functions which do different stuff. And then as you can see right here, we have our setup in here. This is all set up, and then we got the void loop, which does all the repeating and all the weird cool stuff. As you can see, we have different cases based on whatever state the device is in, and we have multiple of those states. And down here, if you scroll down here, we have all the functions, which basically just gives a specific color based on the state it's in. Then you could go ahead and flush it. So we're gonna wait for this to work. Okay, as you can see right here, the code is verified. Great work. Now you go ahead and flash it to the device. While it's flashing, you go on the other side to the Particle website and see for events. Click on events, and then right here you're gonna that's where all the data and all the information that's going on inside the IoT device, it's all gonna pop up right here. As you can see, the flash worked and it started, and all the other information like the measurements and all of that's gonna start popping up right here. So as you're going, if you see it right here, I'm just gonna show you a simple demo. If it flashes on my side, I'm gonna show you the values that pop up as my heart rate. Wait for a couple of seconds. And that's the reason I put in 30 seconds. That way it doesn't have to take long, because I'm not going to make a long video. Okay, it flashed blue. Then I put my finger on it. Pay attention right here. It's going to flash green. And the values should all pop up right here. Okay, so it works. It works. As you can see, I measured two different. It took a while for it to work. Then, as you can see, if you click right here, and scroll over to the side. You see the two values. That's the 97 for my blood oxygen and 150 for my heart rate. And ideally, this whole thing is supposed to be connected to the server, and that's the part I was going to show you later. But my friend's going to show, he's going to explain the rest of the server connection. That's why you're seeing all these weird errors. But ignore that. So these are the measurements I got specifically, and all of this you're supposed to set it up inside the integration area. So if you go up to cloud services and go to integrations, and this is the project I've been working on. If you click right here for the integration, you're supposed to set it all up. I've already made mine, so you could edit or add your own new one. As you can see, this is the one website we're going to be sending all the data to, and we're going to be sending JSON format, and that's the whole JSON format of information we'll be sending over to the server, and then my friend is going to deal with the rest. Okay, these are all the different tries I've tried before. Okay, so what else? What else? But that's mostly what you're gonna need. So devices, making sure you set up your devices, make sure it's online. And if you click in there, you get all your information like the device ID, the device name, and the serial number. And if you go to integrations, you're supposed to set up the integration and make sure all the details work fine. And for those, if you don't know how to set up integration, you could add an integration like right there. I'm not gonna add specifically, we're working with a webhook. So if you press start right there, then start right now, you fill out all the information, the name, the URL, and select it as a posting because we're sending data right now. And then extra settings. And in the extra settings, you could custom and add your JSON format of how you want your information to be sent. But since I've already made mine, I don't need all of this. Let me go here. I'll just click it. Okay. And that was it. Most of the way I kept track of how the IoT was working to see if it was printing the correct stuff was using the CMD, the command prompt. And we're going to go right here and see right here. So I have my command prompt opened up. And if you want to keep track and see what's being printed as you run your code, you could open the serial monitor of the particle device. Usually you're going to have to log in, but I've already logged in into mine. So if I run that, now this, as you can see, the serial monitor is open successfully. And then it should print out some information. Like as you see, the first thing it's going to show you is place the finger on the sensor. It's asks the user to place the finger up. As you can see, it asks the user to place their finger on the sensor to measure. And then if the user doesn't put any information, it times out and shows that there's no measurement taken. Then you gotta wait the extra 5 minutes. So in our case, we're only using 30 seconds, so it's gonna pop up a bit shortly after. Then this time I'm gonna put my finger, and then it's gonna show you the data and everything. There it goes. Place my finger, and then after a couple of seconds, it blinks green. First, it's going to blink yellow to show that the IoT is not connected to the Wi-Fi and the data is saved locally. And then if I turn on the Wi-Fi connection of the device, and then this time with the device, since I already measured, it's stored locally. Now that it's connected to the Wi-Fi. Okay, now we're going to run and place our finger and see what it shows. Now that we're connected to the Wi-Fi, it checks for all the previous data we've measured offline and prints it all out for us, and then it shows us the new data we just measured and sends both the data, the old data and the new data to the server or the cloud. As you can see, everything works fine, and I think that's it. Anything else? It's gonna be shown in the video. Okay. Other features included not denying or telling the user that the device is not the measurement is outside the time limit, which is usually from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Oh, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And in our case, we will show that during the demo of the video.